Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 9:30 on this Sunday morning. Let's talk about some news and let's start things off with Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. It looks like the Speaker of the House, the third in line to become president, 82-year-old Nancy Pelosi, is indeed on her way to Taiwan. She is being escorted, from what I understand, by aircraft carriers, fighter jets, submarines. I've actually read some reports that say Pelosi is probably hidden in one of those submarines as she sneaks onto Taiwan to stir up trouble. And that is the purpose of the trip, to stir up trouble and to distract away from the terrible domestic problems that the Biden White House has caused in the United States, as well as the catastrophe that the Biden White House has caused in Ukraine. And so the the Biden White House is looking to pick a fight with China now. And they're using Pelosi to do it. And so China is also sending their final warnings. They're holding military drills, and I'm sure everyone has read the news and everyone knows what's going on. And I don't know if we're going to have a military smash right now with this trip, but this trip by Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan has pretty much solidified, in my opinion, the fact that eventually there will be a conflict in China between the United States and the collective West. And China over Taiwan. I think this is now a certainty with this trip. Whether it'll be now, which I don't think it will be, or in 3 months or 6 months or a year, it seems like it's a done deal, unless something else happens, something big happens in the world to change the dynamics in a drastic way. But this is a copy-paste. This is a copy-paste of Ukraine. I am seeing reports coming out from Fox News, from CNN, from MSNBC. I'm reading statements from Republicans, Democrats, everybody in the U.S. and the collective West political class, and they're all saying the same thing. All of them are parroting the same line, which is something along the lines of, who are the communist Chinese to tell us, to tell the United States where Nancy Pelosi can go, where she can travel to? Who are the Chinese to dictate the travel itinerary of Nancy Pelosi? Oh, they actually always have to say the communist Chinese. They always have to put that in there. Who are the communist Chinese to dictate the travel itinerary of the Speaker of the House, of Nancy Pelosi, of a U.S. government official? That's the narrative, whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, Mitch McConnell, or Chuck Schumer. It's all the same. AOC to Ro Khanna, it's all the same narrative that they're pushing out. Left, right, center. The elite political class in the United States and in the collective West is fully on board now with Nancy Pelosi's trip to China, to Taiwan, in order to stir up trouble with China, right? So it is a copy-paste of Ukraine, a freaking copy-paste of Ukraine. It is like it's like I'm watching a bad movie, a bad sequel to an already bad movie. A bad sequel to an already bad movie is what I feel I'm watching, because it was, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, when Russia was telling the collective West, they were telling the United States, look, Ukraine has to, number one, abide by the Minsk Accords. But even more than that, all Ukraine has to do is say that they are going to be neutral. They're not going to join NATO. That's all we want at this moment in time. We want Zelensky to come out and make a statement, put it in the Constitution, that Ukraine will be a neutral state. They will not join NATO. And what was the narrative that you were hearing from Fox News, from Hannity, from Laura Ingraham, from CNN, MSNBC, Joy Reid. Who are the other people on MSNBC? Rachel Maddow, the UK, the EU. What were the statements that you were hearing from the entire collective West? Who is authoritarian Russia? Who is authoritarian Putin to tell Ukraine what alliances it can join and what alliances it cannot join? Who is Russia to dictate to Ukraine whether it can join NATO or not? The same exact freaking statements and narratives. I mean, the same exact thing as to what we're seeing now. Russia was saying, abide by the Minsk Accords. China is saying, honor the one China policy. I mean, there is really no difference. This event with Taiwan is completely fabricated. 3-4 years ago, Taiwan wasn't a problem. I mean, it was a problem, but it wasn't existential. It was manageable. It was manageable through diplomacy and dialogue. Now, it's leading us to another war, a catastrophic war. Why? Because you have to. You have to send Pelosi to Taiwan. It's the most important thing in the world to send 82-year-old drunk Pelosi to Taiwan, right? You have to send her there. You know, it's a matter of national security for the United States. If Pelosi doesn't go to Taiwan, well, then the whole U.S. crumbles. It's completely fabricated. The same thing with Ukraine. Oh no, Ukraine absolutely cannot be neutral. Ukraine should be free to choose whether it joins NATO or not. If we don't have Ukraine having the freedom to join NATO, well then the entire collective West crumbles. All of Europe falls apart because Zelensky doesn't have the option to join NATO. Because Zelensky announces that he's neutral. If Ukraine says they're neutral, then everything collapses. It's completely fabricated. All of this is completely fabricated. And you know what? Just like NATO is getting smashed in Russia, and NATO is getting smashed in Russia, make no mistake about it, this is a war between Russia and 30 countries of the collective West, which have had 8 years of preparation. They've built fortifications, layers deep of fortifications. They've been sending money and weapons to the Ukraine military. They've been placing sanctions on Russia since 2014. They've been placing sanctions on Russia. And this is a war between NATO and Russia, and NATO is getting smashed. They're getting picked apart. Piece by piece, they're getting torn apart. Just like you have what's going on in Russia now, the same situation is going to happen in China, but they never learn. They never learn. I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but this fabricated crisis of Pelosi traveling to Taiwan as if Pelosi doesn't have anything better to do. You're worth freaking $150 million, $200 million. Book a hotel at like a nice resort in Hawaii and enjoy August like normal people do. Well, normal people don't do that, but like normal rich people do. You know, book a 5-6-star, book a 6-star hotel in Hawaii and have a couple of drinks and relax. I mean, my God, why do you have to go to Taiwan? The whole thing's fabricated. So anyway, that is my rant. That's what's going on. I don't even need to get into the details as to the training, the statements made by the Chinese, the statements made by the U.S. We all understand what's happening, and unfortunately, the damage that is being done is irreparable. It's we're now once again on a course, on a trajectory for which, unfortunately, there is no reverse gear, because they don't have a reverse gear, these neocons and these neoliberal warmongers. There is no reverse gear for these guys. And they're now on a path towards confrontation with China. Whatever that means. God only knows what that means. I think something happening with China is going to make Ukraine look. I don't want to diminish what's happening in Ukraine, but China would just be a whole nother thing, a whole nother ballpark. Anyway, let's move on and talk about a couple of more news items before we get to our clown world. An update with regards to the POW camp strike. If you go by the Russians, HIMARS missile attack. If you go by the Ukrainians, some type of plot to booby trap the prison in order to cover up some doctored, tortured videos. And anyway, depending on what narrative you buy into, Russia has invited the UN and the Red Cross to investigate the POW bombing missile strike. So I think that's more than enough evidence for me to show that that Russia was involved in this. In my opinion, of course, you need an investigation, without a doubt, 100%. An investigation will get to the bottom of this. That's what needs to happen. And once an investigation takes place, then we will know whether it was Russia or Ukraine, the Wagner Group or Zelensky, whatever. Let's get an investigation in there. Let's see what happened. And Russia has now invited the United States and the Red Cross to do just that. In the interest of conducting an objective investigation of the strike on the detention center in Yelenovka, which led to the deaths of many Ukrainian prisoners of war, the Russian Federation has officially invited experts from the UN and the International Red Cross Committee. This is according to the Russian Defense Ministry, an official statement. What more? What more needs to be said? Let's have the UN and the Red Cross go in there and take a look at the evidence. Case closed. Then we're going to find out the truth to all of this. So that is the update with regards to the POW camp bombing missile strike story. And do I have another news topic, or should I wrap this one up? Of course, we have the big news. How could I forget this? The big news about, which is actually a strange, interesting story, that the Zelensky regime is ordering a forced evacuation of residents from Ukraine-controlled Donetsk areas. So Zelensky has ordered a mandatory evacuation from the parts of the Donetsk People's Republic that remain under the control of the Ukraine military. Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk explained on Saturday the decision by saying that it would be impossible to provide the region's residents with heating in the cold months. It would be impossible to provide the region's residents with heating in the cold months, so you have to evacuate all of them. To where? Where are you taking these people? Speaking during a national TV marathon, Vereshchuk, who also heads up what Ukraine calls the Ministry for Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories. That sounds Orwellian. The Ministry for Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories said that given the complete lack of gas supplies and widespread electricity outages, there will be no heat in Donetsk region in the winter period, and therefore about 200,000 to 220,000 residents will have to leave their homes. There is absolutely no gas supply in the Donetsk region. All the gas pipelines that could be repaired were repaired, but unfortunately the enemy destroys again and again everything that would help to warm people in winter, she claimed. Vereshchuk emphasized that the evacuation of households is the duty of every adult member of the family. For example, there are 52,000 of our children in the Donetsk region. They must be evacuated. They cannot be exposed to danger if left without heat and light in the winter, the minister stressed. Vereshchuk emphasized that mandatory evacuations are permitted under Ukrainian law and said that those who refuse to leave will have to sign a document confirming that they understand the consequences of their decision and take full responsibility for it. Zaporozhye region, 65% of the territory of which is without gas supply, may be the next to be evacuated, Vereshchuk added. I have seen photos of massive car lines heading towards the Russian-controlled areas of Zaporozhye. I imagine the Russian-controlled areas of Zaporozhye and Donetsk have enough gas, have an ample amount of gas. So maybe she's not making stuff up. Maybe this is true. I can't say. But this also does seem to me like it's a kind of, I mean, she's the Minister of Reintegration. It just seems to me like it could be seen as a retreat in a way of Ukraine saying, you know what, we're out of the Donbass once and for all. We're not going to stop the Russians from the inevitable takeover of all of Donetsk, like what happened in Lugansk. So let's remove residents from that area. This could be a way for Ukraine to prevent Russian speakers in that area from reintegrating with Russia. You see what I mean here? I mean, the people that are living in Donetsk are the Russians, are for the most part, I would imagine, Russian speakers. And I would imagine there would be a lot of people who, when Russia does eventually take over all of Donetsk, would be pretty much following along the same lines of what happened in Kherson and Zaporozhye and other regions, which is that they would be getting the Russian passports, and then they would be voting in the referendums, and all of these things. So this could be a way for the Zelensky regime to try and remove those people from having that opportunity to get the passports and to vote in the referendums and stuff like that. That could be a possibility as well. It could also signal that we could be heading into a very big fight in Donetsk as well. Maybe this is not a retreat. Maybe Zelensky is signaling that, you know what, let's get the people out of there and let's get more military there. Though that doesn't make sense to me, because the strategy of Ukraine up until this point has been to use civilians as human shields. And that's how they've been preventing the Russians from making quick advances. So removing the civilian population kind of goes against the what has been up to now the Ukraine strategy to slow the Russians down. So I don't think that makes too much sense. Anyway, what do you think about this announcement to evacuate the Ukraine-controlled areas of Donetsk? I'm really curious to hear your opinion on this. It's an interesting development. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe this really is about a lack of gas supply and moving the people somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere to where they can have a warm winter. Maybe that is the case, but something doesn't add up with this move. And it is the Zelensky regime. And the Zelensky regime takes their orders from NATO and from the collective West. So something else may be at play. Anyway, I will wrap it up there. Let's get into a quick clown world. And this clown world has to do with a UK High Court refusing a demand by the Venezuelan government to grant access to around $1 billion worth of Venezuela's gold reserves that are currently stored at the Bank of England. This is according to Reuters. Britain's top court rejected a recent decision by the Venezuelan Supreme Court, which had backed President Nicolas Maduro's request to have the gold repatriated from the UK. However, London recognizes opposition figure King Clown Juan Guaido as legitimate Venezuelan president. Quote, I have concluded that Guaido board succeeds, that the STJ Venezuelan Supreme Court judgments are not capable of being recognized. The judge was cited as saying, effectively giving Guaido free reign over the assets. In other words, over the $1 billion worth of gold that belongs to Venezuela. Now a UK High Court is saying that this Guaido board has access to that gold, free reign over those assets. Juan Guaido, King Clown Juan Guaido, has access to that gold, and that means that in actuality it is the puppeteers of Juan Guaido who have access to that gold. And that is what a UK High Court has ruled. And this is just another nail in the coffin of the UK collective West financial system, because countries are going to see what is the theft of Venezuela's assets, of Venezuela's gold, given to this puppet clown, fake Juan Guaido character, and they're going to say, you know what, we can't trust our gold, our assets in the City of London. We can't trust the UK to honor their agreements with regards to our gold, with regards to safekeeping of our gold and our assets, so we have to pull it out of the UK. We have to pull it out of the City of London. And that is exactly what's going to happen when other world leaders in other countries see ridiculous, clownish rulings like this one from the UK High Court. But this doesn't surprise me, because this is a UK High Court that, from what I understand, I think it was the High Court that also agreed to the extradition of Assange. And this is a collective West financial architecture, financial system that is imploding. It is imploding on its own greed, because the masters of the universe, these political elite, they want to get their hands on Russian foreign reserves. They want to get their hands on Venezuelan gold. They want to get their hands on Libyan gold and Ukrainian gold. And they'll do it by all means necessary, even if it means regime change, invasion, theft, whatever it takes to get their hands on the money. Anyway, that is my clown world. That is the video. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel. Look for us on Locals, theduran.locals.com, and look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and of course, Telegram. Take care.